When people hear the phrase "nurses eat their young," they might imagine something shocking and violent. It is a harsh saying, but it points to a real and painful problem inside the world of nursing. It does not mean physical harm. Instead, it describes a hidden culture of bullying and unkindness. This is often directed at new nurses, student nurses, or younger staff members by those with more experience. It is a form of horizontal violence where people who are supposed to be colleagues end up hurting each other. This goes against everything nursing stands for, which is care and compassion. It is an unspoken, destructive tradition that has been passed down for far too long, leaving deep scars on individuals and on the profession itself. This behavior can take many forms, from very subtle actions to openly hostile ones. It can be a simple, rude comment made in passing, a sigh of frustration when a new nurse asks a question, or the spreading of gossip behind someone's back. More experienced nurses might refuse to help a newer colleague who is struggling with a difficult task or a challenging patient. They might make them feel stupid for not knowing something, forgetting that they too were once new and inexperienced. This creates an environment of fear and anxiety, where learning becomes almost impossible. A new nurse needs support to grow their skills, but this culture of incivility does the exact opposite. It crushes their confidence when they need it most. The problem is recognized all over the world. It's not just something that happens in 1 or 2 hospitals. It is a widespread phenomenon. Studies and surveys confirm that a shocking number of new nurses experience this kind of treatment. They enter the profession full of hope and a desire to help people, only to find that their biggest challenge is not the complexity of patient care, but the hostility of their own teammates. This is the sad reality behind the phrase. It is the act of experienced professionals turning on the next generation, consuming their enthusiasm and driving them away from the bedside where they are so desperately needed. It is a betrayal of the trust that should exist between colleagues. Understanding this term is the first step toward fixing the problem. We must call it what it is: bullying. It is not a rite of passage or a way to toughen up new nurses, as some might claim. That is just an excuse to continue a harmful cycle. Saying things like "it was harder in my day" doesn't make it right. It just ensures that the same pain is inflicted on a new group of people. True strength in nursing comes from collaboration, support, and shared knowledge. It comes from lifting each other up, especially when the work is hard. The idea of eating their young is a dark shadow that we must bring into the light if we ever hope to make it go away for good. The bullying a new nurse faces is not always a single, dramatic event. More often, it is a series of small, cutting actions that build up over time. It can be the preceptor who is assigned to train a new graduate but constantly criticizes them in front of patients and other staff. This kind of public humiliation is designed to make the new nurse feel small and incompetent. It can also look like being given an unfairly heavy patient load, one that even a seasoned nurse would struggle with. The new nurse is set up to fail, and when they inevitably fall behind, they are labeled as slow or incapable, reinforcing the bully's belief that they don't belong. Another common example is being deliberately left out. The experienced nurses might go to lunch together without inviting the new person, or they might have conversations at the nurse's station and fall silent the moment the new nurse approaches. This social isolation is incredibly damaging. Nursing is a team sport. You rely on your colleagues for help, for a second opinion, or just for emotional support on a tough day. When you are intentionally excluded, you are not just lonely, you are also unsafe. You become hesitant to ask for help, fearing you will be ignored or mocked, which can put patients at risk. It turns a collaborative environment into a lonely and dangerous place. Then there is the more direct form of unkindness. This includes eye-rolling when a new nurse asks a question that seems obvious to an experienced one. It can be a sharp, condescending tone used to explain a procedure, or the refusal to share important information about a patient's condition. I have seen nurses hoard supplies or hide equipment to make a new colleague's shift more difficult. These are not just acts of incivility. They are deliberate attempts to sabotage someone's work. Imagine trying to care for a critically ill patient while also navigating a minefield of personal attacks from the very people who should be helping you. It is an exhausting and demoralizing experience that no one should have to endure. These actions create a toxic atmosphere that poisons the entire unit. When a new nurse is constantly walking on eggshells, their focus is split. Instead of dedicating all their mental energy to their patients, part of their brain is always bracing for the next negative interaction. They start to doubt their own skills and judgment. They may become so afraid of making a mistake and facing criticism that they fail to act decisively in a critical moment. This is how bullying moves beyond personal hurt and becomes a direct threat to patient safety. The everyday wounds inflicted on a new nurse ripple outward, weakening the entire healthcare team and compromising the quality of care we promise to provide. The impact of this behavior goes far beyond the feelings of one new nurse. It creates a domino effect that harms the entire nursing profession and the healthcare system as a whole. The most immediate consequence is on nurse retention. We are already facing a critical global nursing shortage, made even worse by the recent pandemic. When new nurses are bullied, a significant number of them choose to leave their jobs or even abandon the profession entirely. A 2024 study showed that poor work environments and bullying are major reasons why nurses quit. They invest years in education and training only to find the reality of the workplace unbearable. This is a tragic waste of talent and passion. This constant turnover of staff hurts the team that remains. When experienced nurses leave, they take their valuable knowledge with them. When new nurses are driven out, the hospital loses its future workforce. The nurses who stay behind are left with higher workloads and constant understaffing. This increases their own stress and burnout, which can, in a vicious cycle, make them more likely to lash out at new colleagues. The unit becomes a revolving door of new faces, which prevents the team from building the cohesion and trust necessary for high-quality care. A stable, experienced team works more efficiently and safely, but bullying completely undermines that stability. Patient care is what suffers most in the end. A nurse who is stressed, scared, and unsupported is more likely to make a mistake. They might be afraid to double-check a medication dosage with a senior nurse who has been unkind to them. They might not speak up if they see something concerning because they fear being dismissed or humiliated. This breakdown in communication is dangerous. Healthcare relies on open dialogue and teamwork to catch errors before they happen. Bullying destroys that safety net. Patients deserve to be cared for by a team that is focused, collaborative, and psychologically safe. A toxic work environment makes that impossible to guarantee. Furthermore, this culture tarnishes the reputation of nursing. Nursing is consistently ranked as one of the most trusted professions, built on a foundation of ethics and compassion. The idea that nurses are actively harming their own colleagues behind the scenes is deeply troubling. It deters potential students from choosing nursing as a career, shrinking the pipeline of future caregivers at a time when we need them more than ever. To solve the nursing shortage, we cannot just focus on recruiting new people. We must also fix the broken environments they are entering. We have to stop the bleeding from within by addressing the bullying that drives so many dedicated professionals away. Stopping this destructive cycle requires a commitment from everyone, from individual nurses on the floor to the highest levels of hospital administration. It starts with individuals making a conscious choice to act with kindness and professionalism. If you are an experienced nurse, remember what it was like to be new. Offer a helping hand instead of a critical glare. If you see a new colleague struggling, ask if they need help instead of gossiping about it later. Bystanders have immense power. When you hear someone making a rude comment or spreading a rumor, speak up and say that it's not acceptable. Supporting the person being targeted can make a world of difference and sends a clear message that bullying will not be tolerated. For the nurse who is experiencing bullying, it is crucial to document everything. Write down the date, the time, what was said or done, and who was present. This creates a record that is much harder to dismiss than a general complaint. While it can be frightening, it is important to report the behavior to a trusted manager, a mentor, or the human resources department. This is not about being a tattletale. It is about protecting yourself and advocating for a safe workplace. It takes incredible courage to speak up, but it is a vital step in holding people accountable for their actions and demanding change from the institution. You are not alone, and there are systems in place to help. Hospitals and healthcare institutions have the biggest responsibility to create a healthy work environment. They must move beyond just talking about a zero-tolerance policy and actually enforce it. This means providing mandatory training for all staff, not just nurses, on what constitutes bullying and how to foster civility. Leaders and managers need special training on how to spot a toxic environment and how to intervene effectively and fairly. Role-playing exercises can help preceptors learn how to give constructive feedback without being demeaning. Moreover, institutions must address the root causes, such as chronic understaffing and high levels of burnout, which create the stressful conditions where bullying can thrive. Ultimately, healing the profession requires a fundamental culture shift. We must actively replace the old harmful tradition of eating our young with a new one centered on mentorship, support, and collaboration. We need to celebrate the nurses who lift others up and make them the role models for the next generation. We need to build teams where asking a question is seen as a sign of strength and a commitment to patient safety, not a sign of weakness. By working together at every level, we can transform our workplaces into the supportive and compassionate environments that both nurses and patients deserve. Our profession's future depends on it.